Welcome to Valhalla Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Becky Hill, otherwise known as Soul Chaser Becky, and I am a proud Viking geek. I fell in love with the history, culture and mythology of the Viking Age, and I have been on an endless quest for more ever since. Join me as I discuss all things Norse with those who have been inspired by Viking Age history and Norse mythology in their creative works, or those who have studied the sagas and archaeology, and review how such subjects are being presented to modern audiences today. If you like Viking stuff, you are welcome in my Valhalla, and I hope you stay for the conversation. Welcome everyone to Valhalla Conversations podcast, where we like to talk all things Norse, whether it's history, mythology, modern and ancient, and everything else in between. And this week's guest, I have lost any chance of a pattern going to my episodes. I just tend to get them and put them on because I like to share these things. Is the wonderful comic artist and writer that I met at Thought Bubble Comic Con in November last year, Kevin Wells. Welcome to the podcast, Kevin.
Hi, Becky. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk all things Norse with you.
Well, I'm delighted to have you here, and I'm so glad you agreed to come on, because I know when I looked through the Thought Bubble list of what creatives and comic artists and writers were going to be there, and I saw your name and then the words "the Last Einherjar," if I can even pronounce the word right, because that's going to be an issue of debate. Feel free to write in, viewers, and let me know if I am pronouncing it wrong. I thought that's a guy that knows his Norse stuff, because not many people know that word or can pronounce it, so just myself. So, as I will show to the screen, if you're on YouTube, if you're on audio, you'll just have to look it up, but it's the beautiful dark red book with a brutish looking bloke and a big sword and two ravens. He looks like he's been in for a fight, but he's also going for a fight as well. And I do love the very almost like scratched on runic style of font you've got for the title as well.
Yeah,
a lovely touch.
Thank you.
But yes, and this is the Last Einherjar that I picked up from Kevin himself and got it signed, so it's officially mine. So I guess we should begin with would you mind telling our viewers and listeners what the Last Einherjar is all about?
Okay. Well, first of all, I pronounce it Last Einherjar, so I break it down to the 3 syllables and then the silent J, so Einherjar.
Yeah.
And that's because that's the way I first heard it. So what the Last Einherjar is about is my kind of take on what would happen after Ragnarok if Ragnarok happened today. So Ragnarok obviously hasn't happened yet, is my thinking of when I first started creating the book. Is like, so what happens in this world is we're in the world of Endirheim. The 9 realms have all merged into one. I'll say the 9 realms. Asgard, Jotunheim, and Midgard have all been destroyed, and all the races, so the gods, the giants, and the humans have all been killed off in Ragnarok. And now this one world has been put together, and the survivors of the elves and the dwarves are kind of trying to go about how they live. But an Einherjar, one of Odin's last soldiers, survived Ragnarok, and he's kind of confused as to why he survived Ragnarok. We'll go into that a bit in the story, but he's kind of working as hired muscle for like an elf village to protect them from trolls and other creatures that are out there. And in the first issue, in the first chapter of the book, he comes across the last human. So 2 humans have survived, which comes from the mythology, I believe. I don't know if I made it up.
Yeah.
But they do.
No, it's true. Yeah. It's true. It's there in the editors.
two humans survive, and he comes across the last woman who survived. Her husband's been taken by some Drogir, who work for a big bad called Svartris. He wants to kind of create the world tree again, but tip it on its axis, so hell is at the top, and all the other worlds are at the bottom. And we follow kind of Ulf is the main character, the Last Einherjar, and we follow Ulf dealing with this new threat to this new world. So yeah, that's That's probably the best I've ever described it.
You pack a lot in there. You certainly do, and I'm correct, hopefully, in my recollection of when I read it, in that the first chapter was of something that you did when you were doing art at university. Was that right?
Yeah, so it was my final major project. So in the book, the artwork's a little different because it was coloured, that first issue originally. But yeah, I did it for my final major project, and I wanted to do. I thought basically something I enjoyed. I wanted to be a comic artist, not a professional by any means, but I'm an indie comic artist. So I wanted to do something that I enjoyed, and I like Vikings and Norse mythology, and that was kind of the subject matter I wanted to portray for my comic book. So I thought I'll do this, use this final major project as an opportunity to get a comic done, get it printed, and start my journey as a comic artist, or someone trying to break into comics. I'm still on that journey, but that was my first step, and yeah, that's how I came up with why I did this story as well.
So how did you first get an interest into Vikings and Norse mythology then?
Um, well, I think I've always I like history. So before me and my wife go to bed, we watch Time Team on YouTube because it just like settles us down. But yeah, I like history, and when I first came across a Viking thing was horrible history books, and I had the Vicious Vikings book, and on the Vicious Vikings book, it had a red-haired man wielding an axe, and being a red-haired boy at the time, I was like, oh, it could be a Viking. And then I also got into my favorite music's heavy metal and power metals, and they tend to sing about Viking-y things, and that kind of swayed my interest more into Viking stuff. So yeah, I think I've always had an interest in it, probably because I saw myself in that redhead Viking in the Vicious Viking book. So that's how I first got into it.
That's good. I like it. I do think, especially thinking back to a lot of the people I speak to, both on and off the podcast, who have this interest in Vikings or mythology or the both, we all seem to find something that connects and relates back to us as individuals, and also makes them, even though it's centuries, if not thousands of years later, seem all the more human and therefore relatable.
Yeah. So I think that's I think it's really interesting. I like the mythology as well. I find it less confusing than other mythologies, like Greek mythology.
Really?
I don't know. I think there's a simpleness to the stories. They're quite easy to follow, and you get the characters of the gods and that. Like Thor is an oaf, but a competent oaf. So yeah, I enjoy them, but I enjoy it. So.
Have you read many books about Norse mythology or other retellings of them?
I think I've got the Kevin Crossley. That was the first one I read.
That's a good one. He's a good one. He's a good guy on it.
Yeah, then I read the Neil Gaiman one. But I don't know if I'll ever go back to reading Neil Gaiman stuff. But that was good, and I think the way that was broken down, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then it's just I've got a big book of mythology there, so you just read but I've never read the prose of the poetic eddas.
No.
Yeah.
Don't worry, neither have I.
Yeah.
I think I've only got the poetic edda purely from my Valkyrie research, and that's a whole other thing. Even then, I've not read it from cover to cover because there's a lot to it as well.
Yeah. So sometimes it's you need it kind of modernized to for it to keep your interest as well. It's like it can be interesting, but the language is so.
It is.
Yeah.
It's definitely of its time. Although
Yeah,
I think I
exactly.
still connected more with reading the Poetic Edda than I ever did when I was reading kind of like Jane Austen.
Yeah.
I was an English student who didn't really tolerate the literature part very well. Language, I loved learning about the language, but the literature, if it was anything from the 18th century onwards, I was just like bored.
Yeah.
I couldn't read Frankenstein, just blabbed my way through the seminars. But I love learning, especially kind of like, strangely enough, I enjoyed like learning about Shakespeare and Faustus and Marlowe
Yeah.
and that kind of thing, just because that had that. I think the appeal was how alien and how different it was, and it's always
Yeah.
fun trying to interpret what they're saying into what we think they say.
Yeah.
But of course, the Norse were kind of like only across the sea from us
Yeah.
Angles.
Well, that kind
Saxons.
of that kind of leads on to a thing like, again, another thing that interested me was the Thor comics. Being a comic guy,
Yes.
the Thor comics, obviously, and like the older ones, he was written to have like Shakespearean
Yes, lots of these
dialogue,
nows.
wasn't he? So he was like, "Thou offend me, feel thy wrath of thy hammer," and stuff like that. And I was like, that's fun. It's a shame they didn't get Chris Hemsworth to do that in the films.
I very recently, actually, literally the night before we're recording this, I rewatched Thor: Love and Thunder simply because it was when Marvel made Jane Foster become Lady Thor that I really got into Marvel comics properly. I was always a fan of Spider-Man, but a very casual fan of Spider-Man. I grew up watching like all the series in the 1990s. So I didn't really bother to read the comics. I thought, well, I've seen it all. I've seen the films, I've seen the cartoons. But I thought, oh, she looks awesome. I want to read about her. And I've been following it ever since. And I don't know if you have as such, but I know when in her current role as the one and only Valkyrie, she rides a horse called Mr. Horse, and he speaks with a very stereotyped Yorkshire accent.
No, I haven't.
And it absolutely makes me chuckle every time I read it.
Oh no, I haven't read a Thor comic in a while, but I do have it. I've got them on my Kindle, so Kindle app. So I've got the Jane Foster one, so I still haven't, because I got so many, and then I'm like,
there is.
Oh, well, I'll go read something else, and then I'll come back to what I'm doing, and I'll get distracted by like Daredevil or something that is what I'm reading at the moment because the show's out. So yeah, I'll need to go back on my Thor.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy the Jane Foster Mighty Thor story arc. It's a lot longer and a lot more fun than the film made out to be. The film's kind of made her a mayfly of a superhero, basically. She existed for such a short time on screen, and then she goes. And I'm like, no, but she had so much to do in the comics. Can't they make a series out of that? Because it would be amazing. Especially if they did get a Yorkshire Mr. Horse involved, which would be just icing on the cake. But I'm glad they've kept her going in the comics somewhere. But I've always admired her both as Lady Thor and equally as the Valkyrie, albeit the last one.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I don't know how they're ever going to address that issue. Kind of like job vacancy coming up at some point. So, in the Last Einherjar, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, we don't actually come across many of the gods as such, because as you explained, it's after Ragnarok when a lot of them have perished, lost, or gone, basically. I'm trying not to spoil it too much because I know there is one. But I was very impressed with how you introduced the ravens of Hunin and Munin, and how they kind of help the reader work out that actually something isn't quite right in this world, and equally something isn't quite right with Ulf, not just how he survived, but the manner he survived. Because of course, I enjoyed reading at the back, kind of like where you share kind of like your thought process of when you were writing it, both when you're at uni and afterwards, and how you concluded the actual set via Kickstarter, I believe, as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was via Kickstarter. I do most things via Kickstarter now. It's quite nice to already have that built-in reader base, which is quite nice to have. So some people are actually going to get your book, and they also help you get your book out into the world as well. I think it's fantastic. So I'm very grateful for people whenever they back a Kickstarter.
Well, I know there's
Yeah.
a couple of creatives that I've come across by a thought bubble from Kickstarter, such as Asa Wheatley and his Sagas of the Shield Maiden, which is equally epic. So I do recommend you
I
look them
never
up.
read it, but I walked past it. I've walked past it a
You've
few
got
years
5
ago.
volumes to catch up on, Kevin.
Yeah,
Come on.
it does them
When he
quite
launches
in
volume
big
6,
volumes.
you'll have to just tick all the boxes.
Yeah,
Get the whole set come through.
I need to get it. It's
You'll
because
love
now I sit at a table at Thought Bubble. I can never get around unless I
Yes,
ask a friend to keep an eye on the
that is a
table.
good
But
point, actually.
yeah,
That's a good point. How any of you
yeah,
creatives actually meet up despite just
yeah,
shouting across the tables.
yeah, exactly.
But what I was saying was that in the back of your comic, I believe you discussed kind of like how you were trying to decide on where Ulf's backstory was set. Because of course he's a Viking of history, as well as kind of like being captured by all this mythology. And I believe you had, before you settled on setting him in the Stamford Bridge finale, ultimation, confrontation of 1066, you did have another time historical battle in mind, did you not?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't. I don't. I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking, was it? It might have been when the Great Heathen Army when they fought the
Yes, that was
Saxons.
it.
Yeah, it might have been there. But then I thought, oh, why not make him the berserker or the soldier who was on the bridge at Stamford Bridge? And then I could remember thinking to myself after I'd done that, I went, that was 1066. They probably weren't pagans anymore. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter in this story because it's set here. In the story is kind of the Norse gods were the main, is the afterlife and that. So anyone could be an Einherjar. And I think I drew in the background of some scenes you see like there's like African and there's Japanese, like samurai Einherjar as well. I don't know if you can see it too well, but I do remember putting them in there. But yeah, I thought, originally I think it was going to be the Battle of going to be like when King Alfred's army fought the Great Heathen Army, because I was watching Last Kingdom and I was reading the Last Kingdom books. So that was kind of in my head. But then I settled on the Stamford Bridge one because I thought it'd just be more interesting, and I wanted to draw him going wild on a bridge with with an axe, and the death I thought with the Saxons going underneath the bridge, to get him. So I remember researching that and making sure I was like, I'm sure this is as historically accurate as possible, but.
That ties up well. I'm just skim reading that back page, and I know you've mentioned it somewhere. So I'm sure I haven't just made that up off the top of my head.
I was going to say I can't remember. I think I put down all my thoughts and went, okay, they're down in print now, so.
Yeah. But I quite like that you tied it back to kind of like Vikings in Britain, in a way, because you could have set it anywhere, because of course Vikings went so many places and had battles with so many different people.
Yeah, I think being British, it had to be British. He had to die in Britain, so I thought that was kind of my main thought process behind it. Like, I wanted it to have like a British flavour to it as well, because I think it is a big part of our history. So why not? Why not have it happen in Britain? And like the main character, like Claire, the human in it, she's supposed to be. I don't think I ever explicitly say that she's English, but she's English as well. I think in one of the comics, so they were in single issues before. I think I had like a back thing saying like she served in the army, at the British military at some point.
Yeah.
But it never comes up in the book, so she could have whatever job beforehand. But yeah, so yeah, I was proud of that one. That third chapter in the book where you go into his history and find out about Ulf's past is still one of my favourite things I've ever done. Especially first that his death scene on Midgard. I think that's still one of my favourite things I've drawn as well.
Yeah, because it's a double-page spread where he's fighting on the bridge, and that is pretty attention-grabbing, pretty dramatic, pretty active. But then the other pages that quite stick out to my mind was when he's recollecting how he was in like the final battle of Ragnarok, and then he gets knocked off the edge of some kind of cliff as the earth ruptures.
Yeah.
And I like how we kind of like have it almost like go to that, instead of a fade to black scene, it's like a fade to white, so you kind of like see him fall and it gets fainter and fainter and fainter, and then white. I thought, oh, that's very cinematic. I like that. That was really clever.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's why I was so proud of that issue. I got to do it. I think, delving into his backstory so I could get a bit more of the mythology in as well. So, and I was thinking, would they have been so like before when they were? And I think I say it in the story. Would the Einherjar be so beforehand when like they were human in Midgard and they were fighting? They was like they didn't really. Would there have been that? There wouldn't have been that fear of death because in their minds they know they're going to Valhalla. But when they're not going to Valhalla and they know it after this fight, it just ends. Everything ends. Wouldn't they be scared if we go for that more kind of human feeling of the story? So yeah, before they were like, "I know I'm going to Valhalla next." This time, where do I go once this is over? So that's why he admits that he gets scared, and starts to run. So yeah. So yeah,
I think you approach that kind of like the aspect of fear, but also the label that comes with it of being a coward when it's such a. It is quite a stereotyped thing of Vikings always have to be brave and have no fear, and they go berserk and they'll go to death happily, kind of thing. Kind of like I really quite liked how, especially when he is having that recollection of that moment after Ragnarok, and then he hears and sees one of the ravens squeak at him, coward. I thought, oh, that just singular way. That's all they have to say. That's just quite dramatic and emotively driven, and it's something that I don't think that is often explored about. Maybe the psychological impact that all these warriors, Saxon and Viking alike, and a lot of blokes, I suppose, at the time, probably went through with all these very physical, up front, in your face, death, blood, guts, limbs flying off everywhere. I think, as you say, you've read Bernard Cornwell's, obviously, The Last Kingdom. I think he is definitely a master at capturing what a shield wall might have been like in the closest possible way.
Yeah, and I think, it looks and sounds terrifying, and I think I wanted to. I don't think I really show it so much like a shield wall, but I show that kind of. I wanted to kind of get across like the nerves before a battle, and this kind of. I never really would say he had like PTSD from Ragnarok, but he kind of has it, and he's got survivor's guilt, especially everyone else died in the battle, but I didn't because I started to run. But then if he turns around and you look at the picture, if you could see my illustration, you'd see other people were running as well. It's just he survived, and then it was the question of why has he survived, and that's when we bring in the ravens to kind of explain and give an explanation to his survival. Also, they kind of brought in because I wanted him to speak to someone. Because I was thinking it'll be a very silent book if I don't have for the last 2 chapters of the book, because I've split him up from Claire. He won't have anyone to talk to whilst he's going off, and it'd just be a lot of talking to himself. So I like kind of, and I'd like to make it. I made, believe it was it Mugen. Yeah, I have to look in the book. Actually, it's turned to the pages that I was looking at. Yeah, it was Mugen. He's the one who's kind of. Oh wait, no, Hugen. Yeah, he's the one who's I've lost my train of thought. Who's his.
Speaking about thought and memory, and you've lost your train of thought.
I'm terrible for this. Yeah, he's the one who's like defending Ulf, and he's kind of becomes his guide on the journey to defeating. If he does defeat, we don't know. You have to buy the book to find out. But yeah, I liked that and I made him very chatty as well. I thought, because I imagined he wouldn't have had anyone to talk to, and his brother is kind of very stern in the book. He's definitely been affected by Ragnarok as well. But if I ever do go back to the book, I do have plans for those characters.
I was going to ask because you left it with quite a nice open ending where it could go on to do more. And I certainly would be very interested in seeing what else lies in this alternative world set up after Ragnarok, and of course see what other adventures Ulf gets into. Like you, as well as him being the last Einherjar, and there is one last god, and I'm not going to say who. There is also one last Norn who I think survived. She was in pretty dire straits, but that's all I can remember. But then there is also, and I had to have a bit of a geeky girl moment when she appeared, was like the last Valkyrie of sorts in this world as well, albeit she was kind of persuaded to the opposite side of forces in this post-Ragnarok world.
Yeah. So as far as we know, there's no more Valkyrie. She was kind of the last one, but there's always opportunity for them to be in hiding. So, one of the ones I was thinking about going down. So I did a reprint because this won't be good for audio one. So this is the first book reprinted as a singular issue, and in that I had a little short story at the back, and it was about what's his name? Who is the giant called? The fire giant. What's his name?
Oh, Surta.
Surta, yeah. So it was about Surta's daughter. So in this world, officially, in this book, Surta's daughter has survived, and there was an idea to maybe carry on a story with her. She was looking for power as well to restore Muspelheim to what it was. But we'll see. We'll see, because I've got ideas, and I quite like the idea of just doing maybe little short one-off stories at the moment, kind of having Ulf be like a wandering warrior going town to town and dealing with little things, and then maybe build up to a big story. I'm working on another series at the moment, so I don't have as much time to dedicate to the Last Einherjar and Ulf as much as I would like to go back and do some of that, some stuff with him.
Because how long has it been since you wrote or finished the complete arc so far?
So I started it in 2019, so that's when I finished uni. And then I completed the Last Einherjar in 2024. So that was the 5th issue, and the 5th issue came out, and then I did the complete edition. So it's been a few years now since I've.
Oh, I'm not too late to the party then. That's all
not
right.
too late to the party, and I'll still get out there. I'm very proud of the book. There's things I would change, like maybe get a proofreader to go over my spelling mistakes. But,
Don't worry, I didn't notice any, and I'm an English graduate.
Oh, I've been told. I've had
I'm
people
not a
come
human
up to me
dictionary
and
either.
tell me. But yeah, because I'm more of a visual story, so like the writing kind of comes last. So when I create a book,
Interesting.
I don't write it down so much. I kind of write a plot, and then I'll go draw it, because I think more in visuals rather than the. I know where the story needs to go, but I'll tell it visually first, and then kind of go back in, and then I'll go. I know what they're going to say here. The characters are going to say here in this bit roughly, but then I'll go back to it and make sure. Then I'll add the speech bubbles and everything, and the word balloons, and make sure they're doing the dialogue. And also that way it kind of locks it in if I've drawn it already, because it's easier to delete and go back and rewrite something. Drawing something, I'm like, all right, I know what I'm going to do here now. I have to make it make sense. So maybe it's a little tougher on myself, but yeah, that's the way it works.
Because it is one heck of an art form, is kind of like illustrating and drawing comics, let alone writing comics, because I did creative writing with my English degree. So I'm one that struggles when I have a word limit. So kind of like to write a comic, I would struggle a lot. Because I like to be very Tolkien-esque and just describe absolutely lots of detail and try and be incredibly poetic and artistic about it, as well as try and give honest dialogue. But don't get me on rhyming. I could never do poetry. Poetry is one thing I will always be rubbish at. That reminds me, actually, I was going to ask, because of course the first chapter, the first issue, that was part of a uni work. So as you explained earlier, that did come out in colour in a very particular style. But then the rest of the book, you see the style has kind of like shifted and then set, but you've set with black and white. So what inspired you to keep it black and white?
It's cheaper to print. It was, well, that was one of the reasons. I don't enjoy colouring that much. It's already quite a lot of work to draw the book as it is. I've also when I was doing the book, I originally started out drawing it in pen and paper, traditional.
Really? Oh, yes, you did.
Yeah, so issue 1 and 2 was drawn that way. But then I switched over to drawing using Procreate on the iPad, because it cut down the amount of time it takes to draw something, and also it doesn't make a lot of mess and take up a lot of space. But that's one of the reasons that I went black and white. Yeah, first of all, because it was cheaper to print. I wasn't getting funded by the uni couldn't print cheaply at the uni anymore for the second issue. No. Also, I changed the format. Originally, the format was A4, but then I went to traditional comic format afterwards. Again, because the uni couldn't print that, so I had to make amends. I was quite thinking about it. I might actually quite like to stay in A4. Quite nice to have like a kind of a bigger edition. But yeah, I went that route, and also I would like stuff like these 80s indie comics, and they were all drawn in like black and white pen and ink. They didn't have color, so books like The Crow or the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were like these kind of grungy black and white books, and I wanted it to be this grungy black and white book as well. Yeah, I think I prefer the black and white. Now my new book, the new comic I'm doing, is in color because I think it needs the color. But I think the Last Einherjar kind of worked quite well in black and white. I might have liked some splashes of red, here and there, and that was one of the Kickstarter stretch goals. Was if it got to a certain point, I would do a black, red, and white edition. But yeah, I like that. And then that second issue that was in the graphic novel volume, I redrew the whole thing before the Kickstarter because I didn't like the original art, because I updated the first issue art when I got it reprinted in black and white, and then the second issue I just didn't like my artwork in it at all, and I thought, well, if it's all going to be a complete volume, I need to update that artwork to at least be as good as issue 3. But yeah, it took me 5 years to create the whole thing, so a book a year pretty much. But yeah, that's the creative process. Why it's black and white.
Well, I'm still very impressed because kind of like even with such simple colours of black and white, I mean, even my 5-year-old daughter, who was doing some colouring before tea tonight, she likes me to read out the names and all the colours because she uses my colour set more than her own. And of course, I've got one of those adult colouring kits, so it's got like every colour under the sun, and they've all got the red names. And she kind of like, she goes like, why is white written in black and why is black written in white? I said, well, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to read them, kid. They'd be camouflaged on the wrong pencil. So kind of like just trying to explain to her the value of having shade, of having contrast. And I think that's what you've captured really well in all your artwork, in this kind of like the shade and the tones and the textures and all the little details. It really does add to it, and you can see that reflected in obviously front cover. Although it has got a lot of red on it, it's got black and white on top of that red, so you still kept it very simple and kept that lovely contrast coming through.
Yeah, so I thought, again, because I don't like colouring, I wanted to do that monotone palette, and I think I'm very proud of the cover. I'm proud of the font that I made as well, because that one was one I just made off, because I'm not the best at typography, but that one I was like, yeah, this I just wrote it out in a pen on Procreate, what I use, and it had like this scratchy texture, and I thought, oh, that looks brilliant. So yeah, I kept that, and yeah, I wanted to make you want to make a book that stands out and kind of grabs people's attention, and sometimes it doesn't have to be like a flashy, big, colourful thing. I know at like Thought Bubble, you go around and the big, flashy, colourful thing does catch your attention at first, but then like something muted would catch my attention. I feel so. That's the kind of why I want that cover, and that red cover to go into color theory. Red is danger, so like we got something dangerous here, and we got the Svartris, the bad guy in the background, kind of looming over. I thought this book would grab my attention, so hopefully it'll grab someone else's attention, as long as they're not put off by the title because I can't pronounce they can't pronounce it. So I've had that a lot. People come over and go, whoa, what's this last? So I did actually in the back of the book write the in my little bit. I think I put a what you call it down phonetically, so people could say, yeah, I do have it in the back phonetically, so people could, how I know how to say it. But yeah, that's that.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that you've still got some ideas for what he could be doing after this epic first adventure, kind of like in the back of your brain. Of course, I'm definitely eager for them to come to the fore and finally get down on digital screen, so to speak.
Yeah.
See what it came up with, because it was interesting seeing. Well, actually, no, I'll just ask you kind of like, when you first decided that, okay, it's going to be after Ragnarok, but not everyone's dead. What led you to deciding which races survived and which races didn't?
Well, I thought the gods had to go. I thought, yeah, I wanted the gods to go. I think I just got rid of the giants because the gods had gone. I thought, well, they'll all die off as well. But then I thought, Midgard was be another one. Like, I didn't want any humans to be. I sound horrible, but I didn't want any humans to be left in the story because it wouldn't be able to do the last two people that survived. But there needed to be some people in this world, so that's why elves and dwarves were kind of the ones that got spared, but not all of them got spared. I think in the book, they're like, we meet it within the first chapter. We meet a elf who was kind of like a high lord at first, and now he's just running a tavern. So he's upset about that, and like how they went from like a grand life to a very meager kind of existence, but they're happy enough until something happens to them. But this is I thought, for the impact of the story, I couldn't have people survive, and I thought, well, the gods, Ragnarok's the twilight of the gods, so the gods have to go, and we might as well get rid of the giants whilst we're at it. So.
Well, I know we have elves, and I know we have Draugr, the undead ones. I don't think we came across many dwarves.
No, I think there's some in the background of the tavern.
I think there's a mixture in the tavern, isn't there?
There's a mixture in the tavern, but we don't ever come across a singular dwarf. But yeah, in the story of the Surtur's daughter, her friend is a dwarf, so that would be a thing again if I ever get round to doing something with that, or if that's one of those things where it'll be really annoying where, I've had an idea for something, I'll send it out into the world, and then people might be like, they're like, are you going to do something with that? I was like, oh no. So, but they're the ones who survive, and I did for the first, but I've got we sold out of them. I think there was a D&D campaign with the first Kickstarter for the reissue of the first issue, and in that they go to what's left of Svartalfheim. So there's like in the maps in the book. There's a crater for Svartalfheim. If I just like try and put it on the screen, so and there's a crater for the Svartalf Canyon, and there was a D&D campaign set in there where there's still dwarves. If I've got a copy, I can send you one.
Thank you.
But so I didn't really do anything with dwarves in the main book, but there's always room for them to appear in future stories. I'd quite like to build out the world, rather than just focusing on Ulf. Maybe do like a Tales of Endirheim, where it kind of it has different characters and little different stories, and maybe get other creators to come on and kind of build the world. That might be interesting, but it's just getting the time.
Idea.
Yeah, it's just getting the time to do it at the moment.
I just have a strange image of seeing dragons. I can very much picture dragons surviving somewhere in your comic universe.
Oh yeah. I think I think again on the last page. I think. Yep, there's a dragon right on the last. If you look on the last page of the book where he's walked. Well, I won't give away the ending, but there is a dragon.
I thought it stuck in my head for some reason or other. But yeah, I mean that itself, that end page is simply beautiful. It really is, even if it is just in black and white. And I like how you've kept Tunin and Munin still following him, because that's kind of like a lovely, kind of very an obvious motif of a broken Norse universe, because of course they're usually always with Odin, aren't they?
Yeah.
Odin's thoughts and Odin's memories, and now Odin's gone. They're kind of like free and wandering and able to do their own thing, which is nice to see.
Yeah. Well, there's originally, and I'm not going to do it, so I can tell you. So originally, Ulf was going to be a reincarnation of Odin.
Interesting.
But I don't think I wanted to. I thought it would have been a bit too, I don't know, on the nose with it. But there are hints to it in the book. He dies and resurrected, the sacrifice. He also, near the end of the book, has a damaged eye, so he becomes blind in one eye. So that was there, but I've decided to, and again, I don't know about when and what I'll do when I return to this world, but I've decided, I don't want Odin coming back. So, but I wanted to play on like kind of. I thought, if it's there, you could go back to it and go, oh yeah, because this and this and this, but yeah. That's that.
Well, he did use reincarnation with one god, but I'm not going to name their name. So you have still kept that technique there, which I think. I mean, it's fantasy, so anything can happen. So it's
anything could happen. Yeah,
absolutely plausible. See, I'm just wondering if he'll ever come across some kind of Nordic treasure of one of the gods. I don't know, like Heimdall's horn. Or maybe Odin's staff, if you're going to keep an Odin theme going.
Well, that was the D&D campaign, the Quest for Gungnir.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
that's so cool.
Again, it was tied into the book, and I was going. So the D&D campaign was. I'm not a D&D player myself. My friend put this together because I thought it would be a cool idea because it's fantasy and stuff. But the idea was because Svartris is kind of looking for things like different races that survived, or ones he kind of snatched and kept away before Ragnarok happened. But he was looking for like relics as well. And we had this character called the Antiquarian, and he's going after antiques, and I don't think that word actually means what I thought it meant because I said it when I made it. But he's going and looking for like the antiques of that, and then there's certain places again on the map at the back of the book where we have the Thunder Fields, and that's where Mjolnir landed, and it's just sparking constantly. So there's like a place full of thunder, and we see in the book where Mjolnir lands at the end of the in Ragnarok. So that's so he's always and there's Idun's orchard there, so you can still go and get the apples so they can live longer. And these are things I'm just thinking of myself now. I was like, actually, is he immortal? I don't know. Because I don't know if he'll just age and die now because he's not in Einherjar anymore. So maybe they'll find is it Hedron, the goat? Maybe that could be the next one. The quest for Mead, Hedron. Yeah.
I mean, that is one thing I will nod to Marvel for, that they did give Thor some very big, loud goats.
Yeah.
Although they didn't have to scream, but I can get the comic value.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's even done in The Grinch. He is a screaming goat.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't actually use it, but he just keeps popping up, and it's tiny, but it screams really loud. Well, I think there's certainly lots of opportunities for you to keep going with this little world that you've made, and I would very much be happy to follow it, no matter when it eventually comes back to Kickstarter, for me to throw money at you to get it done.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, because it's been a while since I've been with the book. Like, there's a part of me will go, well, I've done that now. So I'm focusing on my new series, and then it'll be a case of like I didn't get tired of the Last Einherjar. I think I just had other things in my head where I wanted to do other things instead of carrying on with that story. I thought that story's come to an end now. I can put it away, and then I can come back to it at a later date, and I can go through the hundreds of stories and then come back to it with the one that I really want to tell. Because I guess with work and life in general,
yes,
especially doing any creative endeavors, time consuming. But yeah, making a comic is very time consuming. So I need to put the love and attention into it if I really want to do it and put it out into the world, especially if I want to ask for people's money for it as well. So, yeah, it's somewhat, especially talking today now, I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to go. Might do some drawings.
I'll just scratch that itch for you there.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I enjoy creating the world just as much and getting to play in that like sandbox as well with the Norse mythology. But then I started to wonder if I've limited myself. But then I think like Norse mythology is so big and vast, and doesn't have to necessarily be a Scandinavian take on it. It could be a Germanic take on it added, an English take on it. We forget the Anglo-Saxons worshipped the Norse gods before.
Yeah, they had Woden, didn't they?
Yeah, before Christianity.
W in front of it.
Yeah. So I found out the fun fact: we have most places. England has the most places named after Odin.
Really?
Yeah, even Scandinavia, because the like anywhere there were Wens.
Really?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
Yeah, apparently. I don't. Now I've put it out there on the internet. I'm sure what I heard is that it's apparently apparently it's got the most places named after Woden. So Odin than anywhere else. So, but I bet we'll find like America's named loads of places after it now.
The only factor I can match that with is when I was doing my English degree, we had to do a sociolinguistics module, and they made mine be a study of place names and their meaning and origin around the county of North Yorkshire. And it was through that I learned that settlements ending in BY or Thorpe, so my family comes from, there's a village nearby called Skagglethorpe, and then my first boyfriend, which is going back many, 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 many years, dear viewers, listeners, came from a Motherby. Those places were secondary settlements from either from the heathen army initially or the wave of people that came before them. Because of course the Saxons had all the best ones.
Yeah.
They had all the places by the rivers or by fields or by good arable lands. The Vikings had to settle nearby, and that's what by and Thorpe mean. They mean secondary settlement.
Oh, well, that's what this is reminded about. Like Grimsby, I believe, is Grimnir. Yeah. So that as well. So there's another.
Yep.
Odin place.
The Grimstones are another odd one. They are definitely Norse in origin. I mean, Scarborough, even though it has got a borough Saxon part to it, the Scar bit is Nordic, and it's. I keep wanting to describe it as Scarface if I remember what my study came up with. I'll take my study. I was basically looking at there is an English place name society and they've been running for generations, and they publish all this stuff. So I was just going through all their volumes in the library and just endlessly writing things down. But yeah, that's the only factoid I can match with about Odin's Odin place names. I know in Scandinavia, Thor is named a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I came across it. I think I might have came across it in a Viking book about Vikings. So it's like, but it's an Anglo-Saxon thing, so I can't remember. Or I might have just made that fact up. But I'll be googling it after we've had this conversation. But yeah. So there's so many. Going back to the point, there's so many kind of takes on the mythology that we can carry on, and maybe like in the future, maybe I was thinking as well, like, well, what god's like this god? Because if I'm saying that the Norse gods in this world were like the real gods, would they appear differently to different people? So if like say like Thor, for example, was in Japan, so I'm doing a samurai book at the moment, so Japan. So would he be like the Japanese? Would they see him as like the Japanese thunder god? Their thunder god? I forget the name of their thunder god. I want to say something like with Rai in it because that's thunder. But would he appear like that to and these are things that I thought like about with the story, because like I said, the Einherjar were in this book were from all over the world. They weren't just picked up from a certain select area of the world. So they were all everyone from Midgard, anywhere. You could have a Native American picked up and from any time period as well. I kind of didn't depict that, but that was kind of another like thought I could had. It's like up until Ragnarok happened, they would still be picking up as many warriors as they could. But yeah. And I had it.
I can definitely agree and visualize that, because during my creative writing degree, one of my first short stories was what used to be a humble novel in progress, but never really made it that far, about Valkyries working in modern day York. And in that short story, they were in Starbucks having a coffee, and they were reminiscing about kind of like collecting souls from car crashes on the A64. If anyone knows North Yorkshire on the A64, you know it can happen, and it sadly does. But one of them also kind of remembers collecting souls from the Tower of York fire when the Jews were inside and had to commit suicide because they were being mobbed.
Yeah.
So I kind of very much agree with the idea that if Odin wants unlimited warriors for the end of the world, then of course he isn't going to limit himself to just the time when he was worshipped.
Yeah.
He will go for anyone who dies to a certain degree, or at least the Valkyries will, under his bidding, guidance, or selection, because that's a whole other debate about how much kind of like control Odin had over the Valkyries and whether they were subservient to him, or whether there was a bit more of a kind of like, here, we'll present you candidates and then you pick them, or if he picked them and then they just went and collected like taxes.
Yeah. I think with the Valkyries I had in mind was they picked you up and then you were part of their regiment. So as we see with when Ulf is picked up by his Valkyrie, when he dies, he's fighting in her regiment.
Yes, I remember now.
When they're
I forget that scene.
So that's how I think maybe it happened. But if it happened, but or how that may be, that's my way interpretation of it. And I thought that I had the Valkyries with kind of more looking like angels than anything too gruesome. I've still got that kind of like Marvel like influence again, because one of the influences for the book was the Thor comics from before, from Marvel. Also, I kind of want to make it more kind of heroic rather than dark and grim. It's still kind of dark and grim, but I wanted to give the kind of like, kind of the romanticism to the.
Now, see, now you've got me curious, because of course, Valkyries are my catnip. I just can't stop learning, reading, talking to people about them, and not many people, certainly of our generation, if not younger or indeed older, can ever think of Valkyries in a gritty or gruesome or even dark manner. It is romanticized. They are typically set romanticized. They often have wings, if not ride winged horses. That's
Yeah.
courtesy of Wagner, kind of thing. And so I'm curious, kind of like how do you know that they're not typically romanticized? How have you come across them in any other visual?
I think it was through a mythology book. I
Okay.
think they said like they certain depictions of them kind of also being like depicted like as harpies. It's kind of like a bird body
Yeah.
and a lady's head. That's kind of a way I've seen them. I think about as well the God of War games. They're a bit more
They have a deadly
well,
edge to them in that
deadly
how
edge.
much they're armored,
How
certainly in
much
that
they're
game.
armored as well. I'm still just having flashbacks to trying to fight one. I was like, I went in and played it. I went, nope, just too
That is
hard.
pretty much the
Yeah,
extent of my experience of that game. That
yeah,
was partly through watching my brother because he had a PS5. I didn't
yeah,
have a PS5, so he could play it. But thankfully, he filled me in on what the story was like
yeah,
as he was playing it. I'm like, I'm calling it. I know who's going to do what to who at the end of that, and it did.
yeah, yeah.
Because, of course, me being the Viking geek that I am, I kind of knew what storylines they were teasing out, albeit in a very unique context.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, certainly kind of like there's not many people that realise how dark Valkyries probably were originally
Yeah,
in some degree of authenticity. Of course, this is why kind of like both you and me love the mythologies because it is such, as you said, Beth, it's a sandbox. Kind of like we know the boundaries of things, we know where people and place names and stuff is, but we don't have any set rules. There's no set book saying this is what the Vikings
yeah.
believed, this is how they worshipped, and that's it. There's no definition to it. All of it is malleable and open to interpretation. It's why there are so many different versions of Thor and different versions of Loki and different versions of Odin. Like as you
Exactly.
said, the God of War, when it came out, it created outcry when Thor was a ginormous bulk of a bloke, really.
Oh
They thought,
yeah,
how can Thor be huge? Because
yeah,
he is, because he
yeah,
drinks a lot of beer and eats a lot of
yes.
ox.
He's half giant as well, isn't? Is he
Mm,
half giant as well? I know Loki's
I think
giant.
he
Is
is.
actually
I
yeah,
think he is.
yeah. So it would make sense. Um, but yeah, it's the interpretations, and we get stuck with these kind of like you said, like the Wagner stuff.
Mm,
Thor, Marvel comics for me as
yeah.
well. That's where a lot of things are, and then you get I guess, like the early interpretations of these things by Christian writers, and so they
Mm-hmm.
put a Christian, so a Valkyrie becomes an angel that is no longer like a monster, if you or
Mm,
something more like demonic, if we're going for that way. Um, so yeah, I think. Also, I think talking of warriors, I imagine a warrior would be much more likely to go along with a pretty lady after they've just been stabbed than
mm,
a harpy. So that's I think that's why I depicted characters
mm,
that way. Oh, yeah, they wanted them to be human in
mm,
portrayal. But yeah, yeah. So I do like. I like the different interpretations of how people interpret this stuff, and then it goes the same for like other mythologies. Like there's a good comic
mm.
called Once and Future, and that's
Oh,
about
yes.
Arthurian myth. I haven't finished it,
Followed that
but
for a while.
yeah, yeah, that's really good in the way like you have different depictions of the Arthurian legends
Mm-hmm.
in the same book, and I thought, oh, that's fantastic, and I like the way. I think it's
Mm.
Kieran Gillen who writes it.
He is
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I like the way like you can just interpret these things, and that's what I liked creating the Last Einherjar. I
Mm,
liked just interpreting how I think
mm,
the myth would carry on.
Did you ever read The Wicked and the Divine?
I haven't read that one yet. No.
Oh, it's
No.
a mind-bogglingly, brilliantly dazzling, but also very deep, but also very
Yeah.
dark at times. Series. I mean, I got into it quite late. I think it was my first thought bubble that I picked up the first issue. Well, this combined volume, and that does have Valkyries in it, and it does have Woden, or they call him Woden,
Yeah.
but he's in fact Odin in it. But it's a very kind of, I want to say the word stark, modern depiction of him as being the guy that he really is in a lot of the actual old myths that come through from the editors, that Odin isn't really that nice. He's not really kind of like a gentle old man figure that you really want to have around, because he'll manipulate you and he'll persuade you to do things that will ultimately always cost you your life. I mean, my favorite legend from the editors is when Odin disguises himself, as he always does, and goes for a walk and sees Thor across the river and decides to start having an insult match with Thor. And Thor doesn't realise it's his own dad.
Yeah.
Him. And I'm like, yeah, you're not really that nice kind of guy, are you, Odin, really?
No.
I mean, you're kind of like, you're paranoid, you're power hungry, you don't share gold. You kind of kept your uncle's head alive in order to have more knowledge. To let the poor guy die, kind of thing. So yeah, it's very intimate. He deals with a lot of, well, both him and the other guys on the comic. There was Sam Wilson does the colours, and there was Jamie McKelvey, I believe. They deal with a lot of other gods from other pantheons as well. Like they have Persephone, they have, I want to say not Tiamat, that's D&D. Sekhmet, and a few other gods. Oh yeah, they have the Morrigan. They have the Morrigan. They have the Norns. I love the Norns in there.
Yeah.
I just love the style. I love their costumes. Like I like see kind of like Russell Jouterman doing kind of like his Hellfire Gala outfits for all the Marvel superheroes. But I would like to wear the Wicked and Divine garlands because they're awesome. But that itself is a mind-bogglingly deep dive into the cycles, repetitions, and also kind of like belief and death of gods, including Odin and indeed Valkyries to a certain degree. So again, add that to your list along with Ace.
I will do.
But yeah, I keep meaning to see if he'd ever come on and talk to me about how they made or why they made Woden such a dick in their comics. But I agree with them doing it.
Yeah.
Really have that many questions besides, I actually approve.
Yeah, I guess that was the one I didn't tackle because we see Thor, a flashback to Thor in the book, but we don't ever see a flashback to Odin. And
I like yours because you include his chariot and his goats. And so many people forget he has goats.
Yeah. I can't even remember his goats. I forgot their names. I know they're like Nasher in the English translations.
Kind of like very onomatopoeic, aren't they?
But I thought I'll best put the goats in. And we don't know the fate of the goats, so the goats might return if I do anything again.
I really do wish you the best of luck on your current project so it can wrap up and then you can return to Enderheim and reveal more tales of what happens when the world ends, but not quite as we know it. And if you're interested in Kevin's book, The Last Einherjar, please do go find him, because I think you've got a few Comic Cons coming up this year, have you not?
Yes, the next one I'm doing is in Nottingham. It's Inkblot. I'll be at Thought Bubble again this year in Harrogate. I have one as well in Birmingham, and then Kings Heath, Birmingham, the 19th of September, called High Vis. So I've got Inkblot is the first one though. I am working on my website to try. I've got a few things going on at the moment, but I need to make the web store on my website. But if anyone's ever interested, you can go on my website, which is kwizillustrator.com, and just message me, and I'll respond to you on there if you're interested in a book, or Instagram DMs.
Yes,
it's always probably the better place to get me.
And will you have another
98
commissioned artwork window open again soon, or are you closed for the time being?
It's closed at the moment. I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter again. Hopefully for my comic, the Sayonara Senorita, there's issue 2, but you can get issue 1 with it if you go on it. But I do commissions on there, and I do them at a discounted price. If you back the project, I'll do you a commission. I haven't got any plans for it at the moment, but as I work in schools, I've got the 6 weeks holidays off, so I'll probably open them up then sometimes. So
definitely, if you're listening and watching, please do follow Kevin on Instagram, because then you'll find out, because I recently took the opportunity of your latest commission sale during March to get you to do a lovely, beautiful portrait of Jane Foster the Valkyrie for me, based on Russell Jarteman's design, and I just need my own Becky Cave to put it up. But at the moment, it's leaning on the wall behind my laptop, so I can see it. Right. Not that many people else can, but it's beautiful. So I will treasure that one. Thank you. So yeah, thank you so much for coming into Valhalla to talk to me about your comic book, The Last Einherjar, and I hope to have you on again soon when you relaunch in Underheim.
I will do. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been nice to talk about all things Norse mythology, Viking, and comics. So. Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it, so thank you for your time tonight, Kevin. And until next time, dear viewers and listeners, hit subscribe, check out other episodes, and we will put a new episodes on soon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed the discussions between my special guests and myself. Please do check out the episode blurb for links to their works and websites. If you liked this episode, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Let me know if you learned something new in the comments. And of course, click subscribe to Valhalla Conversations wherever you are listening or watching. We hope you can join us in Valhalla again soon for more conversations.